I was eating at a restaurant recently, and I couldn't finish my third bite because it was incredibly salty. And I mean, it's one of those saltiness where you could taste the coarseness of the salt. And so you can imagine that as a result, I didn't actually stay to my typical standard in terms of tipping. Well, what was interesting was that I was actually heading out to the bathroom afterwards. And the waitress followed me. She said, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "Yes." "Is this your receipt and your tip amount?" I said, "Yes." The food was very salty. She said, "What does the food have anything to do with service?" Excuse me? And then she proceeded to show me another customer's receipt and said, "Look at this tip amount. Would you like to change your tip?" Wow. So like any reasonable person would do, I took the other customer's receipt and added a 0 at the end. So I'm sure all of you probably have some great customer service stories as well. Well, I'm very excited about today's talk, and I'll keep it very short. But given the brevity of today's conversation, what I wanted to focus on is this notion of customer service gap. And specifically around how do you identify and resolve it real time. And more so, I'm going to actually put it in the context of a retail use case, so it hopefully puts a little bit more concreteness to it. And at the end, I'm going to highlight some of the key results and benefits of this approach. Now, firstly, most of you are probably familiar with what the customer service gap is, right? It's when you have a customer expectation that's much greater than what they actually, from a perception, receive in terms of service. Now, this gap results in customer dissatisfaction. And it could also potentially result in loss of business as well. But the worst part is that if they're really frustrated, they're going to take it to social media and potentially tarnish your brand, right? Now, within the customer service gap, there's many areas that we can actually talk about, whether it's the knowledge gap, delivery gap, policy gap, or the communication gap. But because I only have 13 minutes, according to David or so, I'm going to keep it very short. But what I want to focus on is being able to tell you a story about how this can be applied, so using wearables and the Internet of Things, in case you didn't know my background, how we can apply it from an entire brand engagement life cycle and address this customer service gap. Now, what we're seeing here, for some of you that's not familiar and haven't read some of my articles in Wired and Information Week and others, is that I specialize in wearables and Internet of Things. And I travel the world talking about how these emerging technologies are fundamentally reshaping advertising and marketing specifically. Now, one of the things that's very interesting is that you'll see across the different modalities, be it wearables or sensor capabilities in a physical environment, these things are able to gather information about your context, your intent, your interest, your behavior, your state of mind, and your state of emotion. We take all that information and then process through a sophisticated artificial intelligence and machine learning, as well as cognitive science, neuroscience, and effective computing algorithms to derive actionable insights and metrics. Now, for some of you that don't have a clue as to what I just said, it just basically means that we take a lot of information and basically provide tremendous insight that just wasn't available before. So if you attended the luncheon, you know one of the things that they talked about was this notion of artificial intelligence. That's this notion of predictability. It's looking at the big data and trying to look for patterns and being able to understand things that perhaps that we can understand, at least without spending the time manually. Now let's talk about in the case of a retailer. I mentioned before to you, again, Richard did a fantastic job of putting the framework around how we actually establish not just a transaction, but a lifetime relationship. And that's what this is about. But what you're going to see here is a point in time within that lifestyle customer experience engagement. Now, the way this is going to start in this case is from your CRM system or your campaign management system, you're going to initiate an omni-channel campaign. In this case, that's going to actually drive that customer or customers to a physical store. When they come to the store, now you can actually take that profile from the CRM, right? So everybody with me so far? You have a profile, you have segmentation that resides within that CRM system. What's exciting here is that we're able to take that information and start to enrich with offline data. I'll repeat again, offline data that's going to provide real-time information decision support. Means the way you move around within the store, what you interact with, what you touch, your interaction with the customer service reps, what your product favorability is. Now, some of you are probably thinking, whoa, privacy. I get that, I get that. So here's the way we address it. When they enter the store, they have to explicitly opt into the experience. And typically this is done when they try to access the free Wi-Fi in the store. We make it very simple and clear in terms of how we're going to enhance their shopping experience. And once they do that, now we can actually start to track their behavior, their physiological information via their smartwatch, their smartphone, anything that's on their body, as well as the Internet of Things that's installed within the retail store. And you're probably thinking, well, gee, how do you actually protect their privacy? Well, we take privacy very seriously. Matter of fact, I authored a privacy playbook for wearables and the Internet of Things on Information Week. And recently was interviewed by Forrester, where the report was compiled into an industry research around best practices around consumer data privacy. So we take it very seriously. Moreover, when it comes to actual implementation that we work with our clients, we put it into action. So that means we actually don't just talk about it, but put the privacy by design philosophies into the implementation, and to make sure that the best practices around security and privacy are in the process and protecting the consumers. Now, as the consumer browses the store, the wearables, the smartphone, and the Internet of Things sensors is picking up on their cognitive as well as their emotional response to these product interactions. Now, what's really interesting is that we can actually start to understand things that would have typically taken a survey. So if you are in the research side, you know that you could typically work with surveys and panel data. That's fairly old. Well, here, we can actually gather this kind of richness from the wearables and the IoT real time. And in this case, what's happening is we've actually registered an emotion. If you recall, again, I did pay Richard in advance to speak before me. He talked about hope. This person came in with hope. And what we register from an emotion is desire. Desire for this purse. And our algorithms has picked that up. And we've actually sent that signal to her smartwatch, which then activates a haptic feedback, meaning it vibrates or gives some sort of physical feedback, and displays the emotion that we registered. More so, we take that signal and we send it to the campaign management system, which then triggers a campaign management messaging, contextual messaging, that says, "Are you loving this? Wow, how did you know that?" Now, what's happening here is it's got elements of surprise and delight built into it. More so, what's happening is, if you've listened to some of the prior sessions today and yesterday, you know that it's not about just personalized message, but it's about contextual messaging. What are you trying to convey to me at this point in time, in this location, this state of mind, this state of emotion? That's what it's doing. And what's happening is that this messaging isn't just coming for no reason. It's being accompanied by promotion or an offer. Because we know when we go into a store, and we've been looking at something for a while, we've been interacting with that, we just need a little bit of tipping point to proceed with the purchase. I was talking with Anthony, SVP at SAP this morning, and he was telling me about his car buying experience and how he just needed just a little bit more, and when the sales guy was willing to give a little bit more, plus a little extra, that was just enough for him to say yes. Now what's happening here is that, if you look, there's digital signage. From an omni-channel perspective, one of the most important things that's starting to come into play, in addition to the mobile and the wearable side, is using the digital signage assets prudently. Well, how do you do that? Well, if you've received a contextual messaging on your smartwatch or your smartphone, you can then sync it up with a digital signage that's near that customer or at the POS counter, so that you can further reinforce that contextual message to influence real-time decision-making support right then and there. Oh, what's happening? She's upset. Why? Because her customer service rep says, the purse that you love, that you desire so badly, sorry, but it's actually out of stock. You're going to have to wait 2 weeks before it becomes available. She says, what? I don't want the one that's scratched on the shelf. I want a new one. And you're telling me I have to wait 2 weeks before this becomes available? This is not acceptable. The same wearables, the same smartwatch, the same Internet of Things environmental sensor that's installed within the store also is scanning for customer service gaps. In the back, the store manager receives a notification, and she happens to be working on some accounting matters in the back. Receives a notification on her smartwatch or her smartphone saying that there is a customer service gap identified on the floor. So she immediately goes out and tries to see what's going on. She finds out the issue, and she says, I'm really sorry. The CSR that was helping you is actually relatively new and doesn't realize that some of our premium bags, and by the way, this bag is only $150,000, is kept in the vault, and only I have access to it. So if you just excuse me for a few minutes, let me go ahead and fetch it. She comes back after a few minutes, reemerges with this beautiful shiny new purse and says, here you go. All of a sudden, you ever see those Snicker commercials? After they eat a Snickers, they're back to their room. All of a sudden, she went from being a disgruntled, angry customer to being this incredible big fan of your brand. We've resolved that issue not 10, 15 minutes after the transaction, or after we lost the transaction, or after they went home, or after a year. No, we did it right then and there on the spot. This is a real-time capability of wearables and IoT that I'm talking about. Now she's ready to pay. She's going to go to the POS counter. She's going to transact using a contactless payment system, using Apple Pay, Barclays card on her watch, smartphone. What's happening these days is a lot of retailers are starting to actually do a survey at the end of the transaction to see how that contactless payment transaction was. Why introduce another survey when you can actually use the capabilities that's built into a smartphone? The facial recognition, the mic, the text, the MEMS sensors, all these things with the right sets of algorithms can start to decipher, detect, and classify your emotions and automatically append an emoji into your auto survey. Let me repeat what I just said in case it sounds a little foreign. Emoji, which we all love, auto emoji into an auto survey where I never had to fill out anything. What's exciting about this whole thing is we've been with her through the entire brand engagement life cycle. We've been with her when she had an emotional response to a product favorability. She received feedback, became self-aware. We were there to offer her just the right amount of push in terms of promotion or contextual messaging to get her to that transaction. We were there when she encountered a customer service gap and resolved it right then and there on the spot. She is thrilled. She is thrilled, and she is a lifetime customer that's going to have a relationship, not for just this time, but for her life. Matter of fact, she's so thrilled she's going to take a picture with the store manager, and she's going to post it on social media. And again, In that text message, looking at the video, photo, or text, or the voice analysis, or the movement of the phone, we can detect, using our algorithms, how that person feels and auto-pen an emoji, and off it goes to promote your brand and your brand loyalty of this customer. Now, what's happening behind the scene is that if you recall in this user journey, we started with a CRM profile, a persona, a demographic, psychographic, right? All the segmentation data. Well, it was great from a baseline, but we made it even better by being able to add offline interactions, offline responses, and offline emotional feedback, right? Now, what that means in a bigger scheme is that you've actually enhanced the customer lifetime value because now they have a tight loyalty to your brand. And matter of fact, this same customer is being targeted for the next campaign for the next fall collection. Now, the technology that I'm talking to you about, and I know I went very fast, and some of this may or may not resonate because it's new technologies, but we're not just talking about retail, because during lunch I was speaking with somebody who does B2B, or some of you do B2B2C, or some other form. It can work in many different contexts, whether it's live events, digital content, film and entertainment, product launches, campaigns, physical places like amusement parks, cruises, airlines. By the way, I flew in via United, and I've been on lots of different planes, traveling all over the world. And I tell you, if you've ever ridden a bike or skateboarded or some of those things, and you know you're about to fall, you know that feeling, I'm going to get into an accident? Well, we landed, and we're probably about less than 5 degrees off in terms of probably going to crash. Somehow we recovered, I don't know how. Thank you, Lord. So there's a lot of things that we can do that incorporates these types of technology, even in that entire travel journey, as an example. This conference, I'm speaking to you, you've gone to a lot of different speeches, but how do you know it's actually resonating, it's actually doing something for you? What if we could get that kind of feedback back to him? He's never going to invite me back, is he? All right, so what are the benefits? The benefits of using wearables and Internet of Things with CRM and campaign management system is that you can actually start to identify, resolve customer service gaps real time. More so, you can start to quantify consumer emotions because what did Richard say? It's all about your emotions. And then we add the layers of logic to justify it, don't we? Heighten brand connection, brand loyalty, be able to accurately target the right product or the right service at the right time, right context, right place, right state of mind, right state of emotion. And all that means finally is that you're able to equip brands, your companies, to be able to use advanced data analytics to be able to acquire more customers, to be able to optimize your customer lifetime value, and ultimately be able to drive top-line growth, because that's what this is all about, isn't it? So in closing remarks, customer service experience is important, right? And when we have a bad customer experience, it really hurts our bottom line. But there is an opportunity using wearables and IoT with CRM, that there is an opportunity for us to be able to identify real time and be able to do something about that right then and there. And the challenge to all of you is, you cannot afford not to investigate in emerging technologies and advanced data analytics, because it has the potential to fundamentally take your business to another level. Thank you.